Hi everyone, welcome to our Pilates. If you've never done one of our classes before, watch the pre-class information video first and we'll get straight to it. So we're going to start with our feet together. So this is our setup. We're going to turn our toes out, we're going to take our heels out, and we're going to think about weighing down in that big toe, little toe and heels. So making sure the weight is nice and equally distributed. Coming up to our knees, we're going to have them nice and spongy. Our pelvis is going to be level. So we want to imagine we've got two little headlights on the front of our hips. They're facing forward. Inside our pelvis, we're going to imagine we've got a really full bucket of water and we're going to try not to slosh that around. So you might just want to tilt the hips forward and backwards a couple of times just to find that midpoint for you. Our midsection, we're going to think about putting a little bit of tension there. So pull the belly button back towards the spine slightly. Make sure you can still breathe. Our ribs, we're going to think about knitting the ribs down towards the pelvis. So they're not going to flare out. I'm going to keep the ribs pulled down. Fantastic. So just let the arms be loose down by the sides. We're going to breathe in through our nose. As we do that, we're going to pick our shoulders up towards our ears. We're going to push them back and we're going to breathe out through our mouth. Fantastic. So we're going to repeat this a few times. So into the nose, push the shoulders back out through the mouth. Fantastic. So really think about squeezing the shoulders up towards the ears, pushing them back as far as you can and sliding them down. So we're mobilizing and warming the shoulders. Just slowing the breath down. Do it twice more. On that second one, I'm going to slide the shoulder blades down the back. So imagine you're tucking them into your back pockets. Fantastic. So I want you to think now about having a cord to the top of your head and that's lifting you up towards the ceiling. So we're lengthening up through the spine, we're growing taller. We're going to do our bow and arrow. So this is our spinal rotation. So take a deep breath in, float the arms up to shoulder height. We're then going to breathe out and we're going to pull the one arm, so pulling that elbow back down towards the waist. We're going to twist towards that and then we're going to bring that back up again. So breathing into the nose, breathing out through the mouth, twisting towards that bent arm. Fantastic. So the hips are staying forward. We've got those headlights on the hips aren't moving. The shoulders are just rotating round. If you want to take the neck round further as well, so just look over that back shoulder. Just to get a nice little neck stretch in there, you can do that too. So in through the nose, back out through the mouth. Okay, we're going to go one more each side. I'm going to make sure we're nice and even. And we're going to float our arms back down towards our sides. I'm going to do our lateral flexion this time. So lengthening up through the spine, keeping the hips nice and forward. We're just going to slide side to side. So breathing into the nose at the top, breathing out through the mouth either side. So try and keep the hips level and stable too. And you want to imagine you've got a pane of glass in front and behind you. And you're just sliding through those panes of glass. Shoulders are staying stacked. Keeping the movement nice and slow and controlled. And keeping that tension in our midsection so the belly button is just pulled back. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay, we're going to go one more each side. I'm going to finish back in the centre, so we're nice and even. Fantastic. We're going to do our roll down, so make sure you've got enough room in front of you. I'm going to change my position slightly. If you want to take the feet slightly further apart, that's absolutely fine. So we're lengthening up through the spine, we're breathing in through our nose. We're going to breathe out, tuck the chin, and just roll the top part of the spine down. And just taking the hands roughly towards the knees. We're going to breathe in when we get here. And then we're going to breathe out and we're slowly going to roll that back up, vertebrae by vertebrae. finishing with the shoulders and back with the head. Breathing in, breathing out, tucking the chin. Just try and relax the shoulders, relax the arms. Maybe take it a little bit further this time. So you take the hands roughly towards the middle of the shins. Breathing in when you get here, and then breathing out, pulling that back up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Keeping that belly button pulled in. If you want to close your eyes while you do this, you can. It should feel quite nice. You might need to put a big bend in the knees. You don't want to overstretch the hamstrings. Keep the movement nice and slow and controlled. Okay, we're going to do one more. Take your time, rolling that down, working with your breath. Once you get to the bottom, we're going to stay here. And we're just going to let it dangle. So just put a bigger bend in the knees, make sure they're really nice and spongy. You don't want any tension on the hamstrings. Let the arms dangle loose. Maybe just give them a bit of a wiggle, give the head a bit of a wiggle. And just let gravity pull that spine down towards the floor. If you want to place your hands on your elbows, if that's more comfortable, like a ragdoll position, that's absolutely fine. Another deep breath in and back out, and we're going to come down into a kneeling position. We're going to come out into our plank. So we're going to do our plank into our downward dog. We're going to work with our breath. So if you go a little bit quicker or a little bit slower, that's absolutely fine. We're going to place our hands roughly underneath our shoulders. They want to be roughly shoulder width apart as well. And we're going to think about pushing down in through the wrists to keep the shoulders engaged. Now, if you do have a problem with the wrists or the shoulders, you can do it on your fists. This helps. Or you can come down onto your elbows. It does make the downward dog a little bit more difficult. We're going to take our feet back. So I'm going to come into that full plank position. We're going to be pushing through the heels. We're keeping the belly button pulled in as well. You want to imagine you've got like a cord around your middle and it's just suspending you in the air. Squeezing your glutes, thinking about pulling your kneecaps up towards your pelvis, so we're keeping those quads engaged. We're still pushing through the wrists, so we're keeping the shoulders engaged too. And your head wants to be in a neutral position, so have your gaze roughly at the tips of your fingertips. Breathing in through your nose, on the out breath, we're going to push through the hands, and we're going to push the hips back into that downward dog position. You may need to put a bend in the knees here. You want to think about having the back nice and straight. Breathing into the nose. On that out breath, we're going to push through the feet and we're going to bring that back into that plank position. So resetting yourself, pushing through your wrists, squeezing your glutes, pulling those kneecaps up, pushing through the heels. Breathing into the nose. Breathing back out through the mouth, pushing through those wrists back into that downward dog position. If you want to walk the heels here for a second, you can. Get a nice calf stretch. Breathe into the nose and back out through the mouth. We're going to come back into that plank position. So just roll through the spine, back into that plank. We're going to do it all again once more. So breathing into the nose, out through the mouth, push through the wrists, into that downward dog position. Into the nose, out through the mouth. I'm going to come back again, rolling through that spine, into that plank position. One last breath here. And then we're slowly going to lower ourselves down onto the floor. So we're just going to do a really slow push-up all the way down onto the floor. Fantastic. So just take a couple of breaths here. We're going to do our swan dive next. We're going to have our hands in a W position on the floor. So the hands are going to be roughly in line with the head. So not too far forward, not too far back. The elbows are going to be bent and the elbows are going to be pointing down towards where your feet are. So just let the heels of the feet just roll in. Don't worry too much about those. We're going to take a deep breath in. On the out breath, we're slowly going to peel our head up off the floor. We're going to squeeze our shoulder blades together. We're going to peel the sternum just to the bottom of the rib cage. We're going to breathe in here, and then we're going to breathe out and slowly lower that back down again. Fantastic. We're going to do a few more of these. So breathing at the bottom, breathing out on that way up, breathing in at the top, and breathing out on the way down. If you want to make it a little bit more intense, you can float the arms up. So as you come up, just pull the elbows back slightly. Lower that back down. We're only going to the bottom of the rib cage, we're not going any further. We're really trying to work the upper part of the back. As soon as we go past the rib cage, we start using that lower back, which we don't need to do. So working with your breath. If this becomes too intense, you can go back to just placing the hands on the floor, but just really try not to put any pressure in those hands. We're thinking about using that upper part of the back. So we're squeezing the shoulder blades together, we're pulling the shoulders back to peel ourselves up off the floor. We're going to do 2 more. So take your time in the movement, working with your breath. Once you've done the 2, we're going to come back into our child's pose. So just pull the arms in, push through that forearm. We're going to place the feet together, spread the knees apart, take the arms out in front and just sit the bum back. You should get a nice stretch here. Just take a couple of deep breaths. Just place the forehead on the floor as well. Okay, we're going to pick our right arm up off the floor and we're going to thread it underneath our left armpit for our thread the needle stretch. Just place the side of the head back on the floor. Just going to take a breath here, in through the nose, back out through the mouth. I'm going to unthread that arm. I'm going to the opposite side, so pick the other arm, thread that underneath the opposite armpit, place the side of the head on the floor. Take a deep breath here. Unthread that arm. Fantastic. We're going to come up onto all fours now. We're going to do our swimming on all fours. So I want you to make sure your hands and your wrists are underneath your shoulders. Again, roughly shoulder width apart. Knees are underneath your hips. We're going to think about keeping that belly button pulled in. You want to have a lovely flat back. So you may want to just imagine you've got a tray across the whole of your back. And on that tray, maybe you're carrying some drinks. It's a very slippy tray, so anything you do just might knock the drinks off. We're going to keep the head in a neutral position. We're going to breathe in on that out breath. We're going to draw a line along the floor with our one hand, just about 30 centimetres in front of us. And then we're going to bring that back again. We're going to repeat the opposite side. So breathe in, breathe out, draw that line, bring that back in again. And we're going to do the same with our legs. So breathing into the nose, out through the mouth, extending that leg, drawing that line along the floor, bringing that back in. And the opposite side. So breathing in, breathing out on the movement, drawing the line, bringing that back in. Fantastic. So we're going to keep this going. I'm going to go hand, hand, foot, foot for now. Now, don't let the fingers or the toes come up off the floor. We're drawing that line along the floor. We're keeping the movement nice and slow and controlled. So keep the belly button pulled in as well. We're keeping the shoulders level. We're keeping the hips level. So the torso is not moving at all. Just moving the limbs really slowly, extending those out, bringing them back again. Now, if you want to increase, you can do opposite hand to opposite foot. Again, make sure the shoulder doesn't drop. We're not overextending. We're keeping the shoulders nice and level. We want to make sure, if we are doing them at the same time, that the hand and the foot are going out at the same time and coming back in at the same time as well. So we're really keeping that control, maybe counting to about 3 or 4 on the way out, and then 3 or 4 on the way back in. So really challenge yourself with the movement. We're keeping that belly button pulled in. Back is nice and flat. And keeping the neck neutral too, so keep the gaze roughly at the tips of the fingers. Extending that out, squeezing the glute as you extend that. If it becomes too difficult doing the opposite arm and opposite foot, just go back to the single arm, single leg. Okay, we're going to go one more each side. Once you're done, or if you've had enough, I'm just going to come back to kneeling. I'm just going to give our wrists a little bit of a wiggle. And take a couple of breaths. And then we're going to come down onto our side for our side leg series. So you want to make sure that you can either be up on your elbow or you can be down on your arm. Completely up to you. If you're up on your elbow, keep the elbow pulled in towards you. Shoulders are going to be stacked. The hips are going to be stacked as well, so we're trying not to roll too far forward or too far back. I want you to think about keeping that bottom rib pulled up as well, so we're really engaging that core. We're having the knees bent forwards, the feet are together. We're going to take a deep breath in through our nose. On the out breath, we're going to clam those legs. So we're going to do this 8 times. So every exercise we're going to do 8 times. So we're just squeezing the glutes, we're lifting that leg up. We're not tilting the hips back, the hips are staying forward. If you do want to place your hand on your hip to make sure it's staying where it is, you can. Try not to sink into that shoulder if you are up on that elbow. Breathing in. Once you've done 8 of your clams, we're going to pick that leg up and we're going to extend that out and we're going to lift and lower that leg 8 times. So again, thinking about keeping the hip nice and level. We're also keeping the midsection still as well. So we're not kind of going like this and flinging the body. We're keeping the body nice and still. All the movement's coming from that leg. The rest of the body isn't moving. Once you've done 8 leg lifts, we're going to hold the leg there and then we're going to circle the leg 8 back. So try and keep the circle roughly the size of a football or a beach ball. Not too big, not too small. Once you've done 8 one way, we're going to do 8 the other way. So keeping that slow rotation. Again, try and think about keeping the hips nice and still, so we don't want to be wiggling the hips around too much. Once you've done 8 both ways, we're going to place that back down and we're going to give that a bit of a rub and we're going to switch sides. So carefully move around to your next position. If you want to be down on your arm, that's absolutely fine. Or again, if you're up here, make sure that elbow's pulled in. Hips stacked, shoulders stacked, feet together, breathing in, on the out breath, clam that leg. So again, we're going to do this 8 times. So lifting that up, keeping the hip level. So again, we're not rolling the hips back to do the exercise. The hips are staying exactly where they are. Once you've done 8 of your clam, you're going to extend that leg and you're going to do 8 straight leg lifts. So again, keep that nice and slow and controlled. You want the same tempo all the way up as all the way down. We're not kicking the leg up, we're slowly lifting it, so we're keeping it really controlled. Again, we're trying to keep this midsection nice and tight. Once you've done your 8 of your straight leg, we're going to do a nice little circle. So we're going to go 8 circles one way and then 8 circles the other. Don't worry if you've gone the opposite way first. You're going to do the other way anyway. Again, think about keeping the hips nice and still. We're not rolling the hips forward and back to do the movement. All the movement's coming from that hip joint down. Breathing in through your nose, breathing back out through your mouth. Once you've done your 8, bring that leg back in and just give that a bit of a rub. And we're going to roll onto our back to do our core work. So if you need to help yourself to a drink, please help yourself to a drink. We're going to do our toe taps first. So we're going to place our feet on the floor, roughly hip distance apart. Knees are going to be roughly hip distance apart too. Now the whole exercise, I want you to keep that belly button pulled down towards the floor. We're going to knit the ribs down towards the pelvis as well. So really think about pulling those down. You may just need to tuck the pelvis under slightly as well. So we're just getting rid of that gap underneath the back. Place the arms loosely down by the sides and just tuck the chin in slightly. So take a deep breath in, pick the legs up off the floor into that nice tabletop position. We're going to breathe in. On the out breath, we're slowly going to tap the foot down towards the floor. So the whole movement is coming from the hip joint. We're not bending the knee, so we're not doing this. The movement's coming from that hip. We're keeping the legs at roughly a 90-degree angle the whole time. So imagine you're trying to hold like a yoga block or something relatively cumbersome underneath that knee joint. You can't squish it, it's just staying exactly where it is. So keeping the belly button pulled in. If you want to increase, you can just lift the shoulders up off the floor and take the arms forward too. Breathing in through your nose, breathing back out through the mouth. Keeping the movement nice and slow and controlled. Okay, we're going to do 2 more in each leg. And then we're going to finish with the legs up in the air. We're going to do the same exercise, but this time we're going to abduct the legs. So keeping that belly button pulled in, we're going to take the leg out to the side and we're going to bring that back in. Out to the side, bring that back in. So breathing in through your nose, breathing back out through the mouth, keeping that midsection down to the floor, so there's still no gap at the bottom. And just really think about pulling up on the inside of the thighs. This is really good for your pelvic floor and all the little muscles inside the pelvis. So the pelvis is also staying completely flat on the floor. We're not rolling the hips at all. They're staying exactly where they are. In through your nose, back out through the mouth. Okay, we'll do 2 more each side. Keeping that belly button down, making sure there's no gap underneath the bottom. And once you've done your 2, you're just going to place your feet flat on the floor. And we're going to do our roll-ups. So we're going to take our hands to roughly our thighs. Our feet are going to be roughly hip distance apart, our knees are going to be up. We're going to breathe in, on the out breath, we're slowly going to curl up through the neck, up through the shoulders. And that's a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. We're going to bring that up in a second. And we're going to slowly roll that back down again. So vertebrae by vertebrae down to the floor. Breathing in, breathing out, rolling that back up. If you want to make it a little bit more difficult, you can take your arms up. Stacking that back up at the top. Keep the movement nice and slow and controlled. Work with your breath. And breathing in at the top, breathing out on that movement. Breathe back in at the bottom and then breathe out on the way up. We're going to do 2 more. On that second one, we're going to finish back down on the floor. place our hands down by the side. Just going to take a second just to breathe. I'm going to do our glute bridge. I'm going to make sure I'm still in the frame. Lovely. We're going to bring our heels as close to our butt as we can. They're going to be roughly hip distance apart. Knees are going to be hip distance apart, facing up towards the ceiling. I want you to think about pinning the shoulder blades down to the floor and pulling those ribs down towards the hips as well. So just place the hands lightly either side. You're going to breathe in through your nose. On the out breath, you're going to start to push through the heels and curl the pelvis up, squeezing the glutes, pushing up into that ski slope position. You're going to breathe in here, and then you're going to breathe out and slowly place that back down on the floor, vertebrae by vertebrae. Fantastic. So breathing in, breathing out, squeezing the glutes, pushing through the heels, peeling the spine up off the floor into that ski slope position. Breathing in and breathing out and slowly placing each vertebrae back on the floor. So you want to keep the movement really nice and slow and controlled. So you want to be going up and then back down at the same tempo. So maybe count to about 5 or 6, whatever you feel like, whatever's comfortable for you and your body. You'll notice the slower you take it, the more you'll wobble. That's absolutely fine, that's normal. Your body will eventually overcome that with practice. It's just challenging yourself and your muscles. But squeezing the glutes, pushing through the heels. Think about pulling up on the inside of the thighs again to keep the knees where they need to be. Pulling that belly button in. And we're knitting the ribs down towards the pelvis as well. So we're just shrink wrapping that middle as we're pulling that up. Breathing in and then breathing out on the movement. We're going to do 2 more. So maybe see if you can make them even slower. So just challenge yourself to maybe do 1 more count up and down. Breathing in at the top, squeezing the glutes the whole time. Once you've done that second one, we're going to do a nice glute stretch. So I want you to pick your right leg up off the floor, place the right foot on the left thigh. I'm just going to push that knee away. And if you want to stay here, that's fine. If you want a bit more, you can pick the left foot up off the floor, and you can also take the arms, or take the hands, should I say, behind the thighs, and just take some breaths here. And that should feel quite nice. We're going to place that foot down, go the opposite side, so uncross the legs, pick the left leg up, place the left foot on the right thigh, push that knee away. Again, if you want to stay here, that's fine. If not, pick the foot up off the floor, take the hands behind that leg, and just take some deep breaths here. Just pull that leg in towards you as much as you can. Place that back down, and we're going to do a couple of hamstring stretches real quick and our spinal twists. So we're just going to take one leg up straight into the air. We're going to place our hands lightly either side of the thigh. I'm going to take some deep breaths here. If you want to flex and point that foot, you can. Okay, we're going to place that leg back down. I'm going to pick the opposite leg up, straight up towards that ceiling. Again, just pointing and flexing that foot. Lovely, we'll place that back down. Okay, we're going to do our spinal twist. So just take your arms out to the side. If you haven't got much room, you can place them in like a cactus shape. So just bend up the elbows. I'm going to pick up our right leg, cross it over our left, And just let our knees drop towards the left hand side. Take some deep breaths there. Okay, we're going to bring the knees back into the centre. We're going to uncross the legs. I'm going to cross the left over the right and just let the knees drop towards the right hand side. Again, take some deep breaths here. Okay, bringing the knees back up into the centre, uncrossing the legs. We're going to roll over onto our side and we're going to push ourselves up into a seated position. Fantastic. So well done, and thank you for joining me this evening, today, whatever time it is, who knows. Take some deep breaths, just relax and enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you're doing. Subscribe to our channel, drop us any comments if you've enjoyed it, or if you have any questions at all. If you have any ideas of things you'd like to do, any areas, just let us know. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.